James the Intern. James the Intern. James the Intern. Hey guys, it's me, James the Intern, and I am sitting down with Ramin Karimloo. How are you?
Very good. Very excited to be in New York.
Yeah, it's beautiful weather out too. You hit right.
It's gorgeous, right?
Right on time. Yeah, we're in the Sony building right now because you are coming out with a new album. Could you tell us a little about your album?
Yeah, you know, it's a new venture. You know, I see myself as starting over again on this side of things as a new artist, developing as a songwriter. It's a great. I'm very proud of our first album because it's helped bridging a gap of obviously where I'm coming out of from.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a very loyal and nice support system with the roles I've done, but hopefully they'll come with the journey to this new side of things, which will hopefully run parallel to myself as an actor. And
how modest, by the way. Like, huge theater star in the West End. Like, I have a loyal fan following. Like, how modest?
Well, listen, I'm no Justin Bieber.
I mean, but if you just look at the Phantom videos alone on YouTube, it's over almost 2 million views total.
Yeah, that's true. That's crazy when I see some of the totals on like my music video to Till I Hear You Sing to the 25th anniversary Phantom and Les Mis. I think, wow, a lot of people have seen our work.
Yeah, a lot of people have definitely seen and enjoyed your work. We're still waiting for the Phantom to come over here. I think a lot of New Yorkers are still holding out for Love Never Dies on the Broadway.
Listen, I think it'll happen. I think it's, you know, as far as Andrew, from what I see and hear from him, he's not giving up on it. And there's no reason why I shouldn't come here to give it a shot, you know?
If it did come here, would you possibly be joining it?
Probably not.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Well, we'd expect to see you on the red carpet though.
Yeah, I'll be there supporting it, especially if you know, the thing with Phantom, I feel like I've shut the door on it, and I want to
move past it.
Yeah, no, I think you can only grow so much as an actor, and grow your craft so much in one place, you know, and I feel like I've contributed what I can to that timeline of that show, and I think it needs someone else. As for Love Never Dies, it's not around for even to think about right now. I don't know whether I could do it again. It's a different story, but you know, Sierra would play a big factor in that.
And you and her both had an opportunity that most actors never get with continuing the story, because you had both previously done Phantom in the same roles.
Yeah.
Was that interesting, like continuing that story on, or how did you approach taking on that very iconic role and giving it a completely new story?
Well, I started, you know, I didn't worry about all the sequel novels that were out there because Love Never Dies was, you know, a collective effort of a bunch of writers around the table. Like, sometimes a musical based on a book, the book can be helpful, or actually not so much sometimes, depending on how loosely they base it. And Love Never Dies is one of those things where I'll start with the material that's given to us in the script and how just my instincts feel the character would have gone. And the main thing I started with was his society has done a 180 on him, and the idea of him going from darkness to light, from being hunted to being celebrated, and what would that do to his psyche, but still the underlying pain of not having his muse there. And then from there we just started layering it, developing it.
Right there, some good advice for all actors really though, on how to approach new material.
Well, developing research and rehearsals is I think one of the most fulfilling times. I don't think you can research enough. I don't think you can make enough notes. You know, anything, I always think sometimes the amount of work you can put in, and a lot of it no one will see, but if it's embedded in you, then I don't know, that idea of acting less and just being is so much more fulfilling, for me at least. And you know, I try and follow in the footsteps of the people. I try and even get an ounce of their credibility one day. You know, you look at Daniel Day-Lewis or Robert De Niro.
This guy.
Robert De Niro, and those guys, you think they go to such extremes to prepare for something. And as a fan, when I see what the product is. I think that's exciting. So I'll try and do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
My motto sometimes is, what would Daniel Day-Lewis do?
I think that's a good motto. I think I should adopt
When
that
I'm
motto.
stumped on developing product, what would Danny do?
What would Danny do? Danny, all the way.
Yeah.
And you started out singing in rock bands and doing that whole scene in Canada, and then you transitioned into acting. How do you feel like your past histories have helped you develop this album that you've come out with?
Well, I don't want to say without it this wouldn't be happening, but it might not have been, or at least it's given me a platform, it's fast-tracked me, because when it comes to musicals, I've been fortunate to be part of some amazing things, but in a short space of time. You know, I've done a handful of roles. I haven't done a ton of roles. So, and I'm just as ambitious to carry on with that. So, having the platform of the 25th anniversary of Les Mis, Phantom of the Opera, Love Never Dies, you know, there was a lot of spotlight on the shows, which I was a byproduct of, you know, and I got to be in that spotlight as well. And I think that got me noticed by my music management who found me, which got me connected with Sony. So, you know, I celebrate all that and I take that on board, but I think trying to develop myself, and I'm not forgetting where, you know, a lot of people can be like, and I see this happen with other people in theater who try to attempt something, and I think, well, good for them, they should try something. Why, you don't have to just be one thing. You know, if you diversify, you're only going to expand your craft, you know? So that's why I feel like on the album it was necessary to celebrate my two Phantom songs as well.
Do you think that that experience in theater might have helped you in the recording process as well?
I would hope so, yeah. Like, it gives your voice a resilience, especially on tour.
Which he's doing, by the way.
Here in New York. Yeah, we just finished doing the UK stuff, and I had a big fear, two big fears before we embarked on that was, one, I got to be myself for the first time in front of the public, or in a long time.
Yeah, you don't have that character mask to hide behind.
Yeah, and you're going to...
No pun intended.
I knew you were going to go once I heard mask. And then I thought, these are big set lists as well. I wonder what's going to happen with my voice. And I only lost it on the very last stop, but I got sick. So you're singing on a cold. So I remember I should have moved Music of the Night to Act 1. And it was the encore song, and I had no falsetto left. But what was great is touching is the crowd was so supportive, and they knew I wasn't going to get it. And they sung along with me, so it was great. But that was the whole point, because it wasn't a theater presentation, it was just a music concert. It was just a lot of fun, you know. So those fears are slowly slipping away. I still sometimes think, how do people tour like 100, 200 stops a year? Well, you just build up a resilience. And that did help with the recording, but I learned a lot from recording as well, because I'm not too, when it comes to singing, I don't think about it too much. I just go full bore. What might feel good might not sound good. So I learned a lot in the studio about, wow, so that's the notes. But you know, sometimes there's a balance with being technically perfect to passionate. You try and take both on board. But, you know, I'm learning just as much as anyone else.
And is there like a certain style on your album, or is it going in one direction more than the other? Or could you tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind it?
You know, if I'm blessed to keep making albums, they'll be less and less theatrical and more personal. And, you know, my heart, you know, Johnny Cash started it all for me, and the Tragically Hip and Tracy Chapman. I love country and folk music, especially now with folk being very much celebrated on mainstream.
Very mainstream.
Avett Brothers, Civil Wars, Mumford and Sons, Lady Antrim-Bonnell, you know, they're great songwriters as well. That's what inspires me. So that's where I'd like to go, but also I have to realize where I'm coming from. So this album, why I'm so proud of it, it's lyrically driven, and that's important to me. But it's just beautifully orchestrated. You know, I got 60-piece live musician in Abbey Roads. I remember walking in going, that's all for my album. That's ridiculous.
You recorded at Abbey Road?
Yeah.
Where the Beatles famously recorded?
Yeah, we did there, and then we did some vocals, obviously in a smaller place, because for me, I love anything that's intimate, so Abbey Road was great, because obviously you need that space for 60-piece orchestra. But I know how I'd like to record a second album. That's finding a house somewhere and having the musicians just in the living room and set up the mics and just get that
going
rawness, you know. But as produced and orchestrated this album is, there's a great heart to it, and that's a contribution from having great writers submit to it. We picked a couple covers that help tell the story of this album. I see these albums, especially for me, if I continue making them, I want to see them as diary entries and chapters in the book. And that's why in the first chapter of a book, you get backstory, and that's where the Phantom songs played a part in this album, to kind of, for those who might not know me from Phantom, hopefully a lot of people won't, because we'll be reaching a wider audience. They'll know where I'm coming from, and then the other songs will show where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends with such a lyrical song as well, with Cathedrals, which I love playing acoustically as well. So that's, hopefully, you leave them on the right seeds that you want them. And with the Phantom songs, we stripped them from the character, because that would be odd.
Yeah.
This is introducing Ramin, and it's a road to find out for me just as much as it is for the audience. But the backstory, they play a big part in that. So the two things I wanted to do with those songs was strip it from the character and sing them for the great songs that they are, as me. And also reorchestrate them, because, there's versions of me doing the cast recordings. So I thought, well, we can't have the same orchestrations, because I don't feel right.
Completely reinvented them for the transition.
Yeah, because they had to fit the album. I suppose the album fit those songs. But also, I'd have a problem charging people to pay for something they've already paid for when it comes to the cast recordings, you know what I mean? So, that would be a love or hate thing.
I think you'll find a lot of people are going to love it.
I hope so,
I'm excited to get my album. I really am. We're very excited in our office.
I hope so. I hope you like it.
So what's special about this tour coming up is that you kind of touch on, your back history, like you're saying, a diary entry, but it's not Broadway, it's not musicals, it's very much your own. And you were just talking about the Avett Brothers, and we mentioned on Johnny Cash and how folk is mainstream. So what can an audience expect coming into your show?
As you're talking, you just gave me a thought. My tour is chapter 1, you know what I mean? And so, again, there will be backstory stuff in there, but we do it, again, not in character, as good songs, because theater can just be good songs as well, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But this is you.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue what we started in the UK, because it worked, and we kept evolving, and the audience was going with it, so we can only attempt to start that here, and just roll with the punches, and they will hopefully go with it. If they don't, we'll just, it's one of those tours, but there are songs from the shows that we'll do, but they're stripped back, and
more of like your spin on, like your take on it, like your cover.
Yeah, so like when we did Bring 'Em Home, it was Ramin singing Bring 'Em Home, and sort of how I personally interpret that song, not a Jean Valjean.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have an idea of how we'd like to present that song on this tour, which will be different than we've ever done it.
You were talking about how the fans appreciate that. I think the fans are definitely going to appreciate that, because they're going to get to see your inside process and your take on it and how you feel about this material.
Well, I just look at it this way. If I'm in the audience, I want to see an artist, A, enjoying what they're doing, and B, immersed in what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, as a whole, I want my musicians are just as much part of this show as I am. And also, when I follow a band, like, let's say the Avett Brothers or Mumford & Sons, I can't wait to hear their new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I love the stuff that exists, and I want to hear that too, but evolve.
You want to hear the growth.
Yeah.
What they do next, the journey.
Absolutely. And so I can only, as a fan of these people, pretend and try and do what I would like to see from an artist, and hopefully succeed at it. But that's what so the tour is full of that. Obviously, we're going to do some album songs, and what's great is I've lived with the album live now and singing it.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I sing it now feels and sounds a lot different from the actual album, which is why I don't listen to the album, which is probably the worst thing I do when I'm trying to promote the album.
No, it's totally like Johnny Depp doesn't watch his own films.
Well, there you go. And because the thing is, the album, the way I did it then, and the truth of that moment was for that moment. And I think with any artist, you record it, and that's how it sounds on that day.
Mm-hmm.
how it sounds the next day, and then a month later, and 6 months later.
And 6 months later, how you feel with the song.
Yeah, because now we can jam with it a bit and play with it a bit and push and pull it, especially when it's stripped back. Because this tour, I like the idea of playing smaller venues and earning my way and with a smaller band.
Mm-hmm.
So they will sound different anyways than from the UK tour because I was orchestrated.
That's very exciting though, the journey.
Yeah, I'll still bring my banjo.
Chapter 1.
Chapter 1. That's a good name.
There we go.
Probably not.
Do you have any advice for anybody really in the industry, like getting into recording or getting into theater that's trying to break through?
You can't learn your craft enough and never let ego stop you from learning, you know. I think you should never serve yourself. You should serve the craft, serve the piece. You know, when I like the idea, that's why I like with the 25th anniversary working with Sierra and Hadley, are two of my best friends.
And both theater darlings in their own right, they're stars.
They are darlings, and we don't, I never felt with them they were there serving. Hadley wasn't there just serving Raoul and his career, he's there serving this piece.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that can be exciting, and another advice is you can never plan for anything. Everything changes. So just be prepared for change and just take one day at a time.
Do you remember, this is kind of a funny question, but do you remember when you were first starting out, like did you have a song specifically that you would sing that you thought was going to make it all the way to the top for you?
What, so like
how everyone has their 16-bar cut that they think is going to be like...
Oh, like an audition song?
Yeah, like, do you remember?
Dude, I'm really lucky that I haven't had to prepare many cold auditions because I'm terrible at them. Where it got to the point where when I was going for roles, and I know this is probably a no-no, which I don't know why, but I would just sing a song from the part of the part I was going for, because I thought, well, what's the point if I can't sing this, then we're gonna have a problem here. I could probably sing something else, but if I can't sing this. But I guess the only audition song I used to use, if they wanted big sound, I would do Anthem.
Mm-hmm. From the chess.
From the chess. And, or a song I loved, I think it's from, you know, I don't know much about musicals, but Parade,
Mm-hmm.
I think is a wonderful piece of theater, and a great acting piece from that is It's Hard to Speak My Heart, so I would use that.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of, I would choose, there's a song from Tick Tick Boom, See Her Smile, beautiful song.
We're obsessed with Tick Tick Boom
It's
over at the
great,
Broadway
you know.
Spotted.
Are you?
We are, we're obsessed with it.
You know, and I like the idea of not blowing out your voice on, when I say blow out your voice, I mean like just picking a song for a note. I want to pick a song for a story. If they want to hear you sing high, then make me sing a high note. But if it's about a note, then just go out and sing a top C or something. Do you know what I mean? I would pick songs based on the story.
Based on how you felt about the story.
Because I'm like, if I was on an audition panel, I want someone to make me stop thinking. And that's by telling a story. If it's waiting for a note, you know, they just wait for the note, okay, you can hit the note, and then give you an acting piece, what's the point?
Yeah.
This is probably terrible advice for anyone.
No, I think it's really
That's
good
what I would
advice. I think it's really fantastic advice, actually.
But what if I don't know how things work over on Broadway, what if they pick a non-vocal, big range song? Oh, you didn't show your range enough. Well, Ramin doesn't do it, so don't listen to me. Follow your instincts, that's the main thing.
But I think that was the whole story behind that, which I think is really amazing that you do still follow your instincts and feel that.
Well, they've got me to this point. I just think, I'd like to think I make my decisions hopefully based on integrity and doing the right thing and constantly trying to exceed expectations. I don't want to meet them. But you make mistakes and you win some and you lose some. You know, you got to try.
You have to try. Do you think maybe in the future you'll ever be back to theater in the Broadway, maybe?
Oh, for sure. I'd be here in a heartbeat, you know. There's been offers, but the thing is, I got two boys back in the UK, and for me to uproot completely, like when I go on tours, it's different. I don't.
You still have a home base.
I don't do extended tours right now where it's 6 months on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do maybe a month, then I'll go home. Because, you know, being a dad is more important than any role, than any song I write. Because they inspire all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta be a dad. So for me to accept a role, it's got to be creatively the right role that either makes me uproot my family to bring them here, or cause me to be a distant father for 6 months to a year.
Which would be very difficult.
Yeah, because if it's not the right thing and all the cards fall where they should, I probably won't be creatively at my best because I'll be stressed, worrying about my kids.
This guy, you're so humble, like talking to you, you're so humble and amazing, but you're this like huge theater star and you're branching out into this brand new album and it's very exciting. We're very excited to see what comes next.
Yes, well, that's the thing, but the journey is the most exciting part, right? I don't really worry about what's at the end, and hopefully you never get there.
Hopefully not. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, man.
Thank you.
James the Intern.